Hello and welcome to another episode of Deck Tech. I'm Leonard, your host, and this time around we'll be doing it quite differently, as M12 hasn't hit Magic Online yet, and it's still a good 2 weeks until we get it. We might as well take a sneak peek at what the next Red Deck wins could look like once M12 gets released. And most of the cards, or most of the cards that are interesting for Red Deck wins or a shrine build are just reprints, so it's relatively easy to build ahead of the release and start planning already and refining and playtesting, and that's what we'll do here. I'll quickly describe my idea for the next Red Deck wins, a better and even stronger version, because the cards that Red gets, that Mono Red gets, are quite powerful. If you've happened to watch one of my earlier episodes where I featured the Ember Shrine build, the core is still intact, so we still got the 4 shrines, which are terribly hard to deal with for blue-black control, and that they can't really play around and can't really interact with, and Koth. And even though you can take this deck in a quite different direction without Koth and with more low-cost spells and creatures, I prefer to have a mid-range to end-game plan. And Koth also is quite resilient to point removal, to creature removal, and therefore he always finds a place in my mono red decks, and that's the reason I play him. He's simply one of the best planeswalkers, if not the best, around. But the deck has changed quite a bit, and let me quickly talk you through it. The best one drop is certainly still Goblin Guide, and he still finds a home until he rotates out once Innistrad hits, the new set hits. We got a new old edition in the form of Grim Lavamancers, and he certainly will find a place in this deck. Probably not as a 4-off, but I can imagine him being a 3 copies, playing 3 copies of him, or at least 2, but I think 3 is the right number, because he's not the ideal one drop that you want to drop early in the game, because he does nothing except attacking for 4 and maybe boosting him with a Teetering Peaks. But actually, once your opponent has released most of his creature removal fury, Grim Lavamancers enters the scene and can then deal additional damage, and his ability is quite insane, especially so you're tapping this guy, spend 1 red mana, and by exiling 2 cards from your graveyard you deal 2 damage. So what's sweet about this is that we are still playing the fetch lands, and these fetch lands will end up in the graveyard. And so we have additional boost here. So we're not only playing these fetch land for our 1 Searing Blaze left in here, but we are also playing these fetch lands and these 24 lands for such a rather inexpensive deck, casting wise, because of Grim Lavamancers. So it's one of the main reasons. Lightning Bolt is still a staple, and due to the current meter and what the meter will look like, being Valakut, Splinter Twin, and Control, or Tempered Steel, this member will become a staple, even though it doesn't boost, and I'm quite aware of that, Shrine of Burning Rage. Teetering Peaks is still necessary, of course, to boost your 1-drops and get in some damage early on, some decent damage, but also, and something I would talk about later once we come to the sideboard, against Valakut, once we take possession of a Primeval Titan. But we'll come to that in a minute. Let's go to the 2-drop category here. Ember Hauler is still a very, very decent 2-drop because you can cash them in. So basically you will not cast them turn 2, but maybe turn 3, because you want to make sure to have 1 mana untapped to always be able to cash him in case he gets removed. So removal gets much worse against Ember Hauler. But there's a sweet new card that will get released with M12, and that's Stormblood Berserker. I hope I get this, the name of the card right, but I think I will just paste it here as a picture for you later. And Stormblood Berserker is quite insane because he has Bloodthirst too, so you get in some damage early with Goblin Guide or Grim Lavamancer, and then cast your 2-drop in the form of Stormblood Berserker, and he gets a 3/3. And a 3/3 is quite resilient to Pyroclasm, to Valakut's Pyroclasm strategy, and his additional ability is that he can only be blocked by 2 creatures or more, and which makes him quite unblockable for for control, for example, or even for Valakut, who doesn't have many creatures out. I think Solemn Simulacrum, the Sweat Robot, being one, and you burn in, and the wall. But with our removal, this is no hindrance. So he will be unblockable. So that's why Stormblood Berserker is really a consideration, and I think I will certainly add him to the deck. But don't know the quantity yet, but he will definitely find a home in this deck, and he will be strong. So pick him up. He will be one of Red's best 2-drops. Searing Blaze still has a home, and I'm quite unsure what's better, Searing Blaze or Incinerate, because Searing Blaze is not the best against Valakut and Control. Therefore, to always make sure to have 3 damage at hand, Incinerate is a good option, but we'll have to see about that. But yeah, that's basically a setup. I mean, this spot is filled with 4 burn spells. Burst Lightning, it was never very likely to cast Burst Lightning with a kicker, so for 4 damage, and thus, because you always have to, you must make sure to leave mana open for this guy, or for Ember Hauler, or for something else, for removal, for example, or for Lavamancer. So Burst Lightning is not, I think in this deck is not the ideal card. So Incinerate it is. I've played this card quite much in Pauper, and it does its job quite well, even though the second ability, a creature that damages it can't be regenerated, is pretty insignificant. On to the 3-drop slot, Stagger Shock as a 4-off is mainboard, is quite a beating, and even against Control, Blue-Black Control, I would leave it in, because Blue-Black Control doesn't run many counters, and this hurts pretty badly. And Koth, our staple, still has a home here and is just terrific against Valakut, even though they play Urabrask, the 4/4 haste guy, but still very good. I still would leave him in, and also against Control, still very good. Let's get on to the mana bit. So we still play the 4 fetch lands, and rightly so. We play 2 Tectonic Edges because we are running 24 land, and we can support 2 Tectonic Edges against Valakut or Control, but mainly against Valakut. And also does have some synergy with Lavamancers, even though it's quite small. And now we come to the sweet tech, which is splashing white in the form of 1 plains and 4 Arid Mesa, so you have 5 white sources. You can up this to 2 plains, I would imagine. But I would start with 1 plains, and I received good results getting white so far in play testings, so this seems reasonable, but I think I could definitely see you going up there with 2 planes. And the reason I'm doing this is because of Splinter Twin and Tempered Steel, which will be 2 decks, which will be a major player in the new meta. And let's just go straight to it. So Demystify is an instant that gets reprinted with M12 and certainly finds a home in most decks because it battles so greatly the Splinter Twin deck and Tempered Steel, and Tempered Steel will be a major player, as we've seen with Star City Games, Cincinnati now, and so yeah, as a 3-off, this is definitely something you want to bring in. Also, Revoke Existence can also be brought in against Tempered Steel, against probably not so much against Splinter Twin, but it works great against Wormcoil engines. So against Ubi Control, Blue-Gray Control, this is this is an option. Of course, this slot can be filled with something else, Divine Offering, for example, or another Demystify, or just something else in general. But yeah, so this is the basic setup for the white, for the splash of white. Mana Barbs, another sweet reprint, which many control players don't like seeing back, but it is back, and it very much beats control decks that just aim to land a huge 6-drop or many 6-drops, expensive spells in general, and this basically keeps them from casting stuff, because by the time Mana Barbs hits, which will be turn 4 to 7, they will be already greatly reduced in life points, and Mana Barbs just puts a total stop to their plan, to their casting. So yeah, deals 1 damage to that player. Deals also 1 damage to you, of course, if you tap a land, but we're not on the expensive side with our deck, so that should be rather fine, and yeah, should be fine off. Manic Vandal is still stable against Splinter Twin, against various decks, Tempered Steel, of course. Splinter Twin is running Spellskite, and so Manic Vandal can take care of it, as well as Revoke Existence or Divine Offering if you prefer that. Voshok Refugee, we must expect Mono Red to be strong again, and we must sideboard against it. Also comes in hand against Valakut and Splinter Twin, who, 2 decks who only got removal, red removal. Of course, also got Dismember, but I don't expect them playing 4 as we do. Mostly 2 and 2 bolts and maybe 2 Pyroclasms. That's what Valakut is running. That's at least what I've been seeing them run in the new builds, new M12 builds. So Volshok Refugee, I think it's at least should play at least 3 copies, or even 4, as I do. Act of Aggression, you need it against all the biggies, mainly Valakut. Can also help against Splinter Twin, but they're running counters, and it's quite on the expensive side, but yeah, it's an option, Dismember, so Dismember 4 cards against Splinter Twin, 7 cards against Splinter Twin, 10 cards against Splinter Twin, so you won't need them all. I mean, Demystify is certainly much better than Act of Aggression and the Splinter Twin matchup, because much harder to counter, or basically uncounterable. But Act of Aggression, yeah, it is. Also, don't forget to bring a Manic Vandal against Valakut, because they seem to run Tumble Magnet against Act of Aggression or Mark of Mutiny attempts. So just take care of Tumble Magnet first, also maybe with a Revoke Existence or Divine Offering from the sideboard. So yeah, this is what I brewed, what I came up with so far. I think it's a decent build. I'm quite anxious and exciting to try the splash for white. But that's the basic setup. any comments, suggestions, please post them on the site, in the forums, wherever you find this video. And thank you very much for watching, and next time we hope we'll be running some M12 deck tech feature with a two-man match and so on. Alright, thanks for watching again, and see you next time. Take two, and of course I forgot something, to mention something regarding the site and the main board. So we talked about Divine Offering being an alternative to Revoke Existence, but not necessarily so. So away with it. We didn't talk about Combust. So Combust is the single best solution to Splinter Twin, because it can't be countered. They can do something about it in the form of mutagenic growth or Apostle's Blessing, but we haven't seen that too often yet. So this is still the best single best solution Red has, or probably any color has, against Splinter Twin. The reason we play Demystify is because Tempered Steel got stronger and stronger, and this is simply a 2-for-1. So you can beat two decks with it, with this sideboard option, instead of having nothing against enchantments, against Tempered Steel, and playing only Combust. But I think the meter demands you to play Enchantment Hate. Also, Pyromancer Ascension might make a comeback, because you know, Ponder's getting reintroduced, and Divination, which fit perfectly well in combination with Preordain and Gitaxian Probe. So Pyromancer Ascension is certainly getting stronger as well with M12. So Demystify is and Revoke Existence is really, I think, the better option, also because it's splashable. So yeah, Combust. But that's the reason I'm doing a take two here, is because of Porcelain Legionnaire, and he is a 2-drop in this deck. He would be a 2-drop instead of, for example, instead of Ember Hauler. And I mean, this is a consideration that you cannot discard right away, because he's a solid guy. He's a first strike guy. He's of course very susceptible to removal, and especially to Arc Trail. So they get quite some benefit from running Arc Trail against you. Yeah, it's really a consideration. Also because he's very good against pro-red cards, for example, Warshok Refugee and Core Firewalker, because he's an artifact. He's a solid blocker because he has first strike, and because after first strike damage has been applied, you can simply cast your removal in response and still have a Porcelain Legionnaire that survives the combat phase. So if your opponent can remove him, and blue-black control running Go for the Throat makes no target for them, this is not the worst. So this could be something, could be consideration, though I think it's slightly still much worse than Ember Hauler, and much worse than Stormblood Berserker, which I mentioned earlier. So yeah, just as a thought, something to consider. Thanks for watching again. I hope that's it.